fun fact, if you hate trans people, you have something in common with the Nazis. That's true. And it's ruined a lot of family dinners. Hello, ladies, men, and non-binary friends. Welcome back. With the recent uptick in anti-trans legislation, the conservative lawmakers trying to own the libs are now endangering the group of people that they claim to protect with these policies, namely cis women. Now, to give you a little background, there's two main camps that transphobia is typically fixed in. There's the conservatives that feel threatened by just about everything that exists outside of the traditional white supremacist framework, thinking gay people are an abomination, trans people are disgusting and weird, and they try to get everyone else to live the lives that they themselves want to live, despite priding themselves on living in the land of the free. But the second camp is especially sinister, because while the conservatives just blanket despise everyone that is remotely different, TERFs justify transphobia by pretending to protect women. Basically saying that every trans woman is actually just a man in a dress looking to assault women in the bathroom, which is certainly a stance to take. It's not based in any fact, data, or reality, but a stance nonetheless. But first, I'd like to thank Aura for sponsoring this video. I don't know about you, but I do not trust my government to protect my data online. Last year, major companies across the country had data breaches in the millions, with customers' personal information being released online. I'm sure you are all aware of the national public data breach that led to pretty much every American social security number being posted online, which is horrifying. My credit card was hacked in this breach, and I was literally looking for a software to help me with this, to prevent this in the future. I work 2 jobs. The only person who should be spending my money is me. I'm sure most of you can relate. Aura reached out and I tried the product, and they had way more features than I was expecting. I'm so used to having to pay for extra add-ons, but Aura has literally everything you're going to need to protect your information online. They have your real-time credit score, and they can freeze your credit, so no one can open credit cards in your name without you knowing. They can see if any of your emails or passwords have been leaked on the dark web. They have real-time alerts if your data has been compromised. Aura scanned my entire computer of hundreds of thousands of files for malware and viruses. And now for anything that I download, they will auto-scan to keep those off of my computer. Aura will also contact data brokers to stop them from selling your information. I am still getting emails that they are finding new places that have my information that they are taking off for me, which is awesome. And there's a lot more, but I will let you find that out for yourself. Go to aura.com/happypancake for a 14-day free trial. And that will be plenty of time for Aura to find out whether your personal data has been exposed. So stop leaving yourself open to data breaches. Click the link in my description for a 14-day free trial. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for giving it a try. Supporting my sponsors is the best way to support my channel, and I am incredibly grateful to Aura. They've been my biggest supporters in all this, so give them some love. And in their shallow attempt to protect cis women, they have only further endangered them. Let's take a look.
This is 19-year-old Katie Grass, a mask-presenting lesbian who was beat unconscious at a McDonald's in Illinois. Katie went to go use the women's restroom but found that it was occupied, while 2 young men who were sitting outside called her a slur. She confronted them and let them know that she was a lesbian woman. And at that point, one hit her in the jaw and the other attacked her from behind. And while Katie was viciously beat to the point that she was unconscious because she did indeed black out, her 13-year-old cousin watched on in horror. These men held her down, kicked her, and stomped her in the face. A McDonald's manager tried to intervene. He was attacked as well. Katie said her eyes were so swollen, she blindly crawled over to someone and felt a denim pant leg and begged them to call 911. The 19 and 16-year-old attackers have been caught and charged. And Katie will make a full recovery, but she has a long road to get there. This is why anti-trans rhetoric and these dangerous things like the bathroom bills, it doesn't just affect trans people, it affects all of us.
And who could have possibly predicted this? With the public's already limited knowledge of trans people, galvanizing them on some kind of trans witch hunt with an insane amount of anti-trans legislation could never backfire, right? Right? Conservatives and TERFs are so threatened by trans women and transness in general because it challenges their entire stance on gender essentialism and doesn't fit the stereotypical, outdated idea of what a woman is supposed to be, or what men are supposed to be for that matter. Again, we see a lot of this in conservative messaging and things like the trad wife movement, with an uptick of women online who spend their lives advertising and romanticizing the joys of having a flock of children and being subservient to your husband. Long hair, barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen, while the men work and provide. And if you are not able to fulfill that role of having a flock of children, being petite, hairless, feminine, and making it look all effortless, you're not doing it right. With the TERF propaganda, we see things like divine feminine, or language that associates being female with being godlike, or that if you are male, you are inherently evil. I found this article while I was editing, and it does a really good job of breaking down this divine feminine idea and how it's not really that empowering, because all it does is repackage these traditional ideas of women in more appealing language, associating women with being naturally patient, gentle, emotionally sensitive, and also heavily emphasizing fertility and giving birth as part of being divine, which inherently excludes not only trans women, but infertile women, childless women, and is also used to exclude trans women specifically from the woman club, quote unquote. All this does is continue to put women into a box and describe women as innately maternal and emotional rather than rational, while also conflating women to female, and that these are all inherent qualities that all females have, which is ridiculous and untrue. You can be born female, identify as a woman, and have none of these qualities. Similarly, you can be born male and identify as a man or woman and have these qualities. Anyway, give it a read. It's really good. But the reality is, trans people are not the only ones to challenge this hyper-traditional narrative. Masculine women, anyone who dresses androgynously or looks androgynous, feminine men and femboys, women that are infertile, intersex people, tall women, even men who grow their hair long, and anything that exists outside of this white supremacist view of what men and women should look and act like are directly in the crosshairs when trans legislation is passed and transphobia is further normalized.
I find it really funny how men will come on this app saying that they can always tell when a woman is trans. Like, if that was the case, then how come I get asked in public if I'm trans? This has happened on like 3 different occasions. And it's just because I just happen to be a 6 feet tall woman naturally. But like every time they ask me that, my response is usually like, what a weird thing to say. Why would I want to tell you and confirm to you what my genitals are? That's weird.
This is also why women of color are disproportionately affected by anti-trans laws and transphobia. It's not enough to be a cis woman to be validated in your femininity. You have to be a cis white woman, conventionally attractive, with only feminine features and not too tall and not too muscular. Oh, and also you have to be able to give birth.
I need y'all to really understand that if trans women aren't safe, then we aren't safe either. And by we aren't safe, I mean black women specifically. I'm really talking to all women, but because I'm a black woman, I can only speak on my experiences. At the end of the day, they aren't checking your pants to make sure that you're trans or not. Okay, they're going based off of looks alone. We all know what happens to a black woman that looks a little masculine, okay? Along with black women, there were a lot of women out there that have more masculine features. If you have PCOS, if you are a little bit muscular, if you have a strong jawline, you're not safe. Once we all really get on the wavelength that gender is confusing and it doesn't matter and it has layers, that the words man and woman are a societal construct and they're not real, then we'll have an easier time having this conversation. But for right now, that's what I need you to understand, is that their fight is our fight.
If I had $1 for every time someone on Fox News claimed that Michelle Obama was a man just because she had a visible bicep, I would have enough money to pay off my student loans. Because while transphobia was never about protecting women, it also was never just about trans people. Transphobia demonizes completely normal forms of being and expression, most of which are out of our control. And when there are legal consequences for existing outside of the tolerated lines of gender expression, then all hell breaks loose.
Danny was apparently in the women's restroom at the Walmart where she worked when she heard a man's voice shouting from outside the stall. The man yelled a slur for transgender people and said that he was going to beat them up. We have a man who has followed a cis woman into a bathroom and is now threatening to brutalize her because he incorrectly thinks that she might be trans. He thinks the existence of trans women endangers people in a bathroom, but the only one threatening physical violence in the story is him, a cis man. Davis, who again is not transgender, said that she feared the man thought she was trans because she's 6'4". She hid in the bathroom until the man left. She was fired a week later. Her immediate supervisor was supportive when she reported the incident. So she was shocked and confused when she was fired around a week later for not reporting the incident to the right managers and thereby creating a, quote, security risk. Now, she says, I took it to mean that I was the security risk because someone had mistaken me for being trans.
We saw similar tantrums with Imani Khalif and continue to see it with athletes like Barbara Banda. Again, these are cis women, but because of this anti-trans panic, they are being treated like criminals, with hate swarms led by popular children's authors under the guise of, again, protecting women. Protecting women from what? From other women? This is an imaginary boogeyman that you have created. And because you don't have any data or research to back it up, you are inventing issues that do not exist. This is pure fucking delusion. Speaking of the UK, their Supreme Court recently made a legal ruling that the legal definition of woman refers to biological sex. They really fucking think they did something here. And surprise, surprise, the British Transport Police, after this Supreme Court hearing, said that they would carry out strip searches for any suspected trans women in custody. Which means if you're in police custody by the British Transport Police and there's a pervy officer that wants to look at your fucking body, all they have to do is say that you're a trans woman, or they think that you might be a trans woman. What the fuck do you think y'all did here? All you've done is further endanger cis women and trans women by doing this. There are cis women that have been sent to men's prisons on the suspicion that they might be trans, and this led to them being sexually and verbally harassed by inmates. We even have our very own anti-trans congresswomen harassing a cisgender woman in their bathroom because they thought she was trans. These are not one-off instances. This is a consistent and predictable pattern that is only further perpetuated by transphobia and anti-trans legislation, and it will continue to happen. And again, while awful things are happening to cis women because of this legislation, let's not forget the awful things that are still happening to trans people every single day. There is an epidemic of violence against trans people. And despite trying to do what they can to constantly accommodate for others, they can never seem to fucking win.
I'm supposed to be using the bathroom that my gender marker says is my gender on my ID, and I was arrested for trespassing and public intoxication. Now, I'm kind of ready to leave just because I have to pee really bad, and I went and glanced in the men's bathroom, and there were 3 urinals, no lock on the door, nothing separating the urinals, I'm not wearing a stand-up pee packer, and just 1 sink. Anybody can go in the bathroom, basically, and see you pee, and I cannot use the urinal. And at this point, I'm about to piss myself. He opens up the men's bathroom just to, see what I was saying, and this lady grabs her by the arm and is like, you cannot go in there. And she's like, I wasn't going in there, I was just seeing what's going on because he needs to go to the bathroom and he can't use the urinal. And the lady's like, I'm not getting political and I don't own this place, I'm just the messenger. And she just kind of walks away, and I see her whispering to other staff members there. Before she had walked away, she told my friend that my friend could not go in the men's bathroom, but we could pee if we went in the bathroom together. Said that. I'm like, okay, you know what, whatever. She said we could go in the bathroom, we're just gonna go in together, there's no other women in there, it'll be fine, I'll take 2 seconds to pee. She said we could go in there. So this is where I start to think this is a setup, and I'm about to get hate crimed. I'm in the bathroom for maybe 2 seconds with my friend. The owner and the older lady burst into the bathroom and start screaming at me. They're looking over top of the stall at me without my clothes on. They just start screaming that there's a man in here taking a shit, I shouldn't be in there, they're cussing. My friend is like, whoa, you said we could come in here, and why can you be in here, a grown man? And he's like, because I'm the fucking owner of this place, and there's a man in here, blah, 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 taking a shit. And I was like, hey, I'm peeing, I'm just gonna finish peeing, and then I'm leaving. We were on our way out, I just had to pee. He grabs my friend aggressively, it looks like it hurt, and drags her out, and he tells me that I have to get up now, even though I'm in the middle of peeing. So basically, after I'm done peeing, I just get up, and I'm sort of just walking out, calmly, I'm kind of shaking a little bit, but I'm just making my way out, not causing an issue or anything. The owner comes up behind me and starts pushing me right where my scars are. He's grabbing me by the scars and pushing me and saying, it's time for you to get the fuck out, you fucking weirdo. And the old lady is just yelling slurs and stuff at me while I'm being pushed out by the man. He's basically pushing me out the door into this cop's arms. I'm not resisting at all. I am literally just standing there. I have my phone in my hand, I'm shaking. He grabs my phone out of my hand and takes it. My friend's standing over here trying to talk to this guy, and they're putting me in handcuffs, whatever. They push me onto the curb. I'm telling them hey, obviously I'm transgender, I'm just trying to use the bathroom. I didn't cause a problem, I didn't put my hands on anybody. They're telling me that I was involved in a bar fight. I'm publicly intoxicated, by the way. I was not drunk at all. I got there to give my friend a sober ride, and the guy was telling me, I've been doing my job for 25 years. I know when somebody's drunk, you're publicly intoxicated. Not drunk, didn't breathalyze me. I know that they don't have to breathalyze you, but I was not drunk. Takes my wallet, tries to accuse me of having drugs in my pockets because I have multiple pockets in my jeans. All I had was a vape, my wallet, and my keys. None of the officers even asked me what happened. I tried to explain it to them multiple times. They kept interrupting me and saying that I was being disorderly and I was publicly intoxicated, and that's why I'm being arrested. They told my friend that she could leave if she got a sober ride, and she said, I'm not leaving, I'm staying with him. Obviously, I'm gonna stay until he's done with whatever you guys are doing to him. So they put her in handcuffs and told her that she was being arrested for the exact same charge as me. That makes a lot of sense, right? As the guy pushed me on the curb, he was calling me girly girl, little girl, girly girl, 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 girl. We didn't get booked, but we did get cuffed. And when we got to the station, we were asking a bunch of questions that they refused to answer. They didn't read us our rights. They just kept saying, take it up in court, take it up in court. I finally get most of my stuff back. It takes me like literally an hour to get all of my things little by little. I have like 4 things. The last thing that I need is my wallet. The guy gets my wallet, brings it to me, and says, here you go, sir. I mean, ma'am. And, you know, I'm like seeing red. I'm really trying not to say anything that's going to get me in any more trouble, just because these guys can basically do anything to me and nobody's going to give a fuck. So I'm just like, it's sir. Thank you, though. So basically they wrote us both tickets. We have $500 bond in a court hearing.
And he's one of the lucky ones. And for any that stay up to date on trans news or updates in the trans community, most of you probably already know about Sam Nordquist.
This is the horrific story of Sam Nordquist, a transgender man tortured and killed in upstate New York.
The facts and the circumstances of this crime are beyond depraved. This is by far the worst homicide investigation that our office has ever been a part of.
Sam was confined. He was forced to kneel and stand against a wall. He was physically assaulted. He was denied proper nutrition and hydration. He was fed feces. He was forced to drink urine and chew spit. They physically restrained him. They forced him to obey their commands, treating him like a dog. They used duct tape and they poured bleach on him.
This is horrific. And violence against trans people has only skyrocketed since Trump's first term in office. These kinds of conservative attitudes only embolden the people that already despise trans people. It only emboldens them to violence and further hate and bigotry, and does not encourage them to reflect or to understand or to even see trans people as real people. And there's this idea that conservatives have been circulating that trans people have only started existing since like 2015. Now, typical of many conservative talking points, this is a straight up lie. In fact, the documentation of transgender and non-binary identities dates back as far as ancient Mesopotamia and the Bronze Age. We're talking like 5,000 to 7,000 BC here, meaning trans people have been around literally longer than Jesus Christ and fucking Christianity. Scholars have also found expressions of gender variance, cross-dressing, and transgender dynamics in ancient Greece. One of the most revered times in ancient history. People talk about ancient Greece all the fucking time, and it was an era of widely celebrated philosophy and art. And guess what? Trans people were there too. Again, these depictions are not simply one-off circumstances or accidents. They are consistently shown throughout history in ancient art with clay figurines with female breasts and male genitalia, paintings and writings that depicted a third gender, mythos of various gods being able to turn men into women and vice versa, and so much more. Two-spirit is a term that has recently emerged amongst indigenous communities, but has been used to describe long celebrated forms of varied gender expression in indigenous communities, dating back centuries. Transness exists in the animal kingdom. Trans people and gender fluidity have been around longer than any conservative. They just haven't bothered to learn about it, or they have purposefully buried this history in an attempt to illegitimize trans people. In fact, it wasn't long ago that gender-affirming surgery was celebrated in American society as a feat of scientific innovation.
Movie contract?
Yes, but I haven't accepted it.
Do you have any plans regarding the theater?
No, I don't think so.
There were more words written about Jorgensen than about any other topic.
I'm very happy to be back, and I don't have any plans at the moment. And I thank you all for coming. But I think it's too much.
In the 1950s, people were experiencing a technological euphoria. Look what science can do now. It can turn a man into a woman.
Queer culture flourished in Berlin before the rise of the Nazis. There was a thriving nightclub scene and a scientific institute dedicated to studying gender and sexuality. The Institut für Sexualwissenschaft. Not a chance that was pronounced correctly, but on May 6, 1933, the Nazis burned down this institute, destroying years of research, data, and findings on those studies, with more than 20,000 books burned. 20,000. There was no digital backlog at this point in history. That research is gone. And it set back not just our understanding of trans people, but all queer people as well. And I'm hoping that this video can be helpful because most of this hate and bigotry that we see in our society stems from fear. Because people fear what they don't understand. Which is why this attack by the Nazis was such a devastating blow to the queer community. It further inhibited people's understanding of those identities, which led to fear, which led to hate, which led to genocide. Trans and queer people were some of the first scapegoats of the Nazi regime. They were easy targets, a small sect of the population that some didn't really understand or maybe even found a little weird. They were accused of degeneracy, going against family values, and promoting un-German ideas. Fucking sound familiar? I mention this because for the it's not that deep crowd, they may not see how people's discomfort with trans people can ultimately lead to their death. But it's a quicker route than you might think, and it's one we need to push back against with full force. And some of you out there might be thinking, well, if trans people have been around longer than Christianity, why are conservatives suddenly freaking out about it? Why has there been such a significant uptick in transphobia and anti-trans legislation? Well, dear viewer, it's because the demonization of trans people is a much sexier distraction from the actual problems facing the American people, i.e., none of our jobs pay well. Most of us need to have multiple jobs in order to survive, myself included. Everything is too expensive. We can be and are bankrupted by medical debt every year. Houses are no longer affordable for the average family. And many are still living with their parents because they can't afford to move out. People can't live their lives. They're looking for someone to blame. Then why not blame the 1% of the population? Because it's not like they could fight back against all of us. Let them be mad at trans people while we continue to take their money and bleed them dry. Conservatives have always had a scapegoat that they blame because they never want to fix any of the tangible problems that are ruining the lives of Americans, because they are in the pockets of the people who are ruining our lives. Even going back 10 years, we see that their scapegoats shift between immigrants, black people, queer people, trans people, students, disabled people, etc. And their job is to use propaganda and inflammatory language to convince the American people that this small itty-bitty sect of the population are actually the ones ruining your life. Not the people with the billions of dollars and all the power. No. Don't look over here. Jingle, jingle. Jingle, jingle, trans people. Jingle, jingle, women's sports. Don't fucking piss me off. And additionally, the violence, the assaults that are happening right now are happening while being transgender is still completely legal. It's not illegal to be trans. What do you think will happen if this anti-trans legislation progresses? What happens if it becomes illegal to be transgender? What do you think is going to happen if they think you are transgender, even if you aren't? Because it doesn't matter what you have in your pants. It matters who you cross that day. And if you cross the wrong person while daring to appear slightly less masculine or slightly less feminine than you're supposed to, what's to stop you from being violently assaulted? We've already seen the lack of due process with immigrants and even U.S. citizens that seem a little too foreign. I have no reason to believe that this presidency will stop there, and I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm saying that while things are bad right now, they could get a lot worse. And there is still time to change that. So what's happening right now? Well, there are currently 905 anti-trans bills that have been proposed since 2025. That is combining the bills in the federal and state governments. 100 of those bills have been passed. In addition, Trump has put forth 11 executive orders to further endanger the lives of trans people. Now, we're not going to go through all of these, but there is a link to the ACLU website in the description if you want to do a little extra reading, and I recommend you do. But we are going to talk about one bill, and this is one that affects everyone, trans people included. The big beautiful bill.
President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Big, beautiful bill.
Big, beautiful bill.
This is a bill that, and I'm going to read this list here, that cuts $700 to $800 billion off of Medicaid, throwing 10 to 15 million people off of their health insurance, cutting dozens of community hospitals around the country that are supported by those payments, throwing millions of people off of food assistance, SNAP, disallowing expansions of SNAP in times of recession, freezing AI regulations in states for 10 years, $500 billion cut from Medicare, which is for chronically ill people, children, and low-income families. And the reasoning they're using for this is that people that are on Medicaid are actually just people playing video games in their mom's basement. 64% of people on Medicaid are working, either full-time or part-time. 12% are not working due to caregiving because childcare is so fucking expensive in the US. 10% are not working due to illness or disability. 7% are going to school, getting their degree, and only 8% are within the group that either can't find work, are ineligible to work, or some other reason. So we're cutting $500 billion for that little sliver of 8%. Go fuck yourself. So where's the money going? Well, of course, because it's Trump, it's going to tax cuts for the wealthy. I don't even know why you guys asked. But how does this affect trans people? Well, this new bill forbids the use of federal Medicaid and CHIP funding for medically necessary healthcare for transgender people of all ages. Now, initially, the bill was going to only cut medically necessary care for minors, which is still fucked up, but then they made a last-minute change to take away any transgender healthcare for all ages.
The policy change could have devastating consequences for transgender people across the United States and is likely to clash with state laws that mandate insurance coverage for gender-affirming care. According to the UCLA Williams Institute, more than 152,000 transgender Americans currently rely on Medicaid for their care. Stripping that coverage would make surgeries cost-prohibitive for many, with procedures often running into the tens of thousands of dollars. Even routine hormone therapy and necessary blood work could become financially out of reach. For countless trans adults, this would mean either turning to unsafe alternative care or being forcibly taken off treatment, a process known as medical detransition. The effects can be severe, particularly for those who've already undergone surgery and require ongoing hormone supplementation, putting both mental and physical health at serious risk. Now, that does sound bad. People are going to suffer as a result of this. But that's what the Republicans want. That's what conservatives want. They hate you and want you to suffer. I've said this for a long time. They're not a big fan of freedom. They never have been. They want you to conform to what they think you should be, and if you don't do that, then they're going to try to force you, and if they can't do that, then they're going to get rid of you. We're currently in the trying to force you part of the equation. The Republican Party and conservatism as a movement has finally found a minority that they can attempt to erase at the barrel of a bill rather than a gun.
This healthcare bill, in essence, just wants to make sure that poor people are dying. Typical villain shit.
Execute Order 66.
And trans people are suffering alongside with all of us. They want trans people to suffer, and they want trans people to cease to exist. Now, there is still a possibility that this bill fails. It still has to go through the Senate. It has passed through the House, but it was by a very narrow margin. This is the point where I said there is still something that you can do. Call. I know it's fucking boring. It's not glamorous. Fucking call. Call your fucking representatives. I know most of you out there have never called your representative. Call your fucking representatives and tell them that this bill needs to fucking die. And even if this bill does fail, the fight to protect our trans brothers and sisters and NBs will continue. Because we have to stand together. No one is coming to save us. That is our role here. For everyone. Advocating for everyone. Because the more anti-trans legislation that comes out, the more the general populace will fail to see trans people as people. And this is why intersectionality is so important. This is why people say we're not free until we're all free, right? Because these different branches of oppression, they bleed into each other. Sexism bleeds into transphobia, which bleeds into racism, which bleeds into patriarchy, and then back around again. 100 other different directions. Homophobia, ableism, classism, you name it. They are all fucking connected. Okay? Nothing exists in a vacuum. Everything that is happening right now has happened before. There's thousands of years of history of oppression that have shaped the ideals that people currently hold. Religion, books, movies, relationships, personal experience, education, and a fuck ton of other factors. But when we're talking about how different forms of oppression affect us, I'm not saying you should care about this because it affects you. I'm saying you should care about the suffering of all people. Because all forms of oppression, even the ones that don't affect us, are wrong. And making sure that everyone is treated with dignity and everyone has the same rights can only benefit everyone. And even if we can only ensure that in our little pods and communities around us, it is still worth it because that spiders out. Now, I am going to talk about J.K. Rowling oh so briefly. Just bear with me here. You'd think that an author who writes an entire story that follows a child who chooses his friends to be his family because his family by blood are abusive and treat him like an abomination would be sympathetic to the plight of trans people and particularly trans youth. But no. People are carrying the goodwill and good memories and heartfelt moments that they have associated with this story and turning it into hate and complicity in the eradication of trans people. If you are still buying Wizarding World products, you are directly contributing to the eradication of trans people. Unfortunately, this is the world that we're living in. This is what Joanne is using her fortune for. And she's getting results. okay? Your universal trip to fucking Wizarding World helped sponsor the anti-trans activists that brought about this Supreme Court ruling. That's the reality. That's the reality. And I understand loving Harry Potter, okay? I started my YouTube and TikTok career as a fandom creator. I loved Harry Potter growing up. But as an adult, I've unpacked some of the problematic aspects of that story, as well as Joanne's involvement in anti-trans legislation. If you are so insistent on getting Harry Potter merch, you can either make it yourself or you can pay someone on Etsy like a normal person. Your love of a fictional story should not outweigh your love for real people who are just trying to exist. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. So what do we do? In terms of fighting back, we're going to start in my backyard. Good old New England, baby. Because this story has a very happy ending. Trump basically threatened to cut funding from Maine because the governor of Maine was like, yeah, we have transgender athletes and that's gonna continue. Go fuck yourself. And he was like, that'll be an easy one to win. I'll see you in court. And it was an easy win for her.
An executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Not here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
And when confronted by the President of the United States, I told him I'd see him in court. And so I want to thank the Attorney General for achieving this result. It's good to feel a victory like this. We took him to court and we won.
Queer people, we would not have rights if not for trans Black women. We would not. We owe everything we have to trans women. Now that they are raiding gay bars, it is more important than ever that we stand together. Next, you can fight transphobia in your day-to-day life. Don't let transphobia get normalized in your inner circles. Call it out when you see it. In your group chats, with your fucking family members, anywhere you see it, coworkers. Next is following trans creators. Listening to the people belonging to the identities that you are not informed on is imperative. I have a list of trans creators in my description. Full disclosure, some of them are friends of mine, but everyone on there is amazing. Some of them are comedians, cosplayers, fandom creators. Some of them are trans activists and use their accounts to actually inform people on what it means to be trans and how to be the best ally you can to trans people. Check them out. Be a safe space for your trans friends and family. Drive them to their doctor's appointments if they need it. Even something as simple as like buying them lunch, buying a coffee, help them find a job. Transgender people are at a much higher risk of employment and poverty. Being able to be there as a network and a resource is fantastic. Lastly, fucking protest and call your reps. Go to the ACLU website that I listed. Find any bills that are currently in progress in your state and call your representatives. Let them know why you're worried about this bill and why you want nothing to fucking do with it. I'll even add a script in the description as well. You don't have to understand why trans people exist or what it means to be trans. You just have to be respectful, or at the very least, just don't be a fucking asshole. Because it's totally normal, and it has been documented as part of the human experience for thousands of years. I'm in the queer community. I have friends that are trans. I follow and support a lot of trans people online, and I will never truly, fully understand the experience of a trans person. Because I'm cis. Just like I can't expect my friends who are straight to fully understand my experience as a queer person. It's the same thing. I just ask that they respect me and understand that this is a part of who I am. This is all most trans people want. For people to be like, hey, I may not understand, but I respect you and you're valid and you should be able to live your life. You are just as valid in your identity as anybody else. The perceived danger of transgender ideology is completely fucking fabricated. If you are awake, you know that the reason why we're all miserable is because the 1% has consistently choked out the middle and working class by ways of wages and limited benefits, if any, for fucking decades. We fear the day that we will need medical care. And or the day that we may become disabled because it could bankrupt us. We are unable to build a life or long-term plan for ourselves because everything is so fucking expensive in this goddamn country. And our government refuses to put limits on what these corporations will charge us as they artificially inflate prices for the sake of profit. It has nothing to do with the fact that your child wants to use they, them pronouns. And if you feel angry about that, that's some shit that you need to fucking unpack. The non-binary barista at your local coffee shop is not why your life sucks. The trans coworker worker who is asking you to use she, her pronouns with her is not the reason why eggs are so expensive. Your daughter's trans friend is not the reason why you can't pay your fucking bills. Use your anger for something goddamn useful instead of ruining innocent lives. And if after all of this you somehow still think that by making trans people's lives worse, it will somehow lead to your life improving, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. You're fucking stupid. This video has been a long time coming, and it's something that's very important to me. Like I said, I have a lot of people in my life that are trans, and I'm seeing them being directly affected by these Hitlerian policies. I'm having a very strong emotional reaction to that. As you can see, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I see the toll that the endless barrage of anti-trans legislation has taken on good people that actually serve their communities. Trans people will continue to exist. Trans people have always existed. Trans people are valid. And for any trans people watching this, I love you and I'm sorry. I've never felt unsafe around a trans person. I've never felt unsafe in the bathroom with a trans person. Most of the time, I don't even fucking notice or pay attention to who's in the bathroom with me, if I'm being real. This charade, this circus is all bullshit. It's fucking stupid. And I will continue to use my platform to vouch for you because I know most of you are just trying to live your lives in peace. As always, I have Rawan's GoFundMe linked in the description below. She was supposed to attend university this year, but Israel bombed her home and her school out of existence. The second season of Westerly Academy, the D&D campaign where I raise money that goes directly to Palestinian families, will be starting up season 2 very soon, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of that. And thank you again so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. Check them out in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Please take care of yourselves. Bye. Very special thank you to Inside Chaos, Long Leg, Anonymous, Tiny Axes, and Robin Fellows.